because I recognize that they are always next. They are always on the pulse of what is happening, and they tend to hear it before we hear it. And I always want to make sure that that voice is wherever we are, because sometimes we don't realize, oh, girl, you got it, you got all the time ahead of you. But guess what? What we have seen in the last year in this country, no, they don't. They don't always have all of the time in the world. So we want to make sure that we always celebrate that voice, that we always empower that voice, that we always encourage that voice to come forward and speak. And that is who is next to come and talk to us. Her name is Lily, also a member of this committee. Lily Pando is an upcoming senior in high school and transgender youth activist. Lily got her start in activism by interning at Legacy Community Health and being an active member of Hatch Youth. She's lent her talents to organizations like the Montrose Center and Equality Texas. She now serves, of course, with me on Mayor Turner's LGBTQ Advisory Board as youth representative, and she's the co-chair of the Hatch Youth Steering Committee. Coming here to give us a word for the future, Lily.
So when I was 13, I came out to my mom as transgender. This was the most terrifying thing I've probably ever done in my life. From there, she helped me come out to my school and to my friends and to the rest of my family to help get me along into the world, and thus I became the famed LGBTQ youth. So to me, being a queer youth means representing a community in dire need of representation, representing the younger side of a community, which no one seems to want us to do. For me, it means having a community, a family to represent. It means being a voice for the future. So often people say children are the future, but if this is the case, then why do we keep getting spoken over? To me, being a queer youth means fighting on my own behalf to make sure the last generation doesn't make decisions for us. Thank you, Monica. For many others, being a queer youth means something very different. It means depression, homelessness, bullying, and above all else, fear. If you think about it, people my age, our generation, has only been alive for 2 to 3 presidencies. Although we had the pleasure of coming to adolescence during the Obama administration and during marriage equality, we're now living in a very different world. In the past 2 years, we've seen schools unafraid to shut down gay-straight alliances, unafraid to discriminate against trans kids, unafraid to force trans kids to use the incorrect restroom. We've seen people given a license to discriminate against our family, against our children, against my queer brothers, sisters, and siblings. This is not okay. And it's not just our peers, it's adults too. And it's not just that. 40% of queer youth have contemplated suicide, according to a recent study. And as someone who spends a lot of time with queer youth, basing off of my own experiences and conversations, I can tell you that number seems low, that it's far more than 40%. And some people are getting so scared, they're even fleeing back into the closet, running away from our community to avoid homelessness, or worse, a real and ever-present danger in the state of Texas and the United States, conversion camps. To be a queer youth is to be reasonably afraid. Thank you. Afraid of our government. And it's not just the federal government, it's our state too. From the recent Senate Bill 6, also known as the bathroom bill from the most recent legislative session, which we defeated twice, to lesser known laws like the Romeo and Juliet law. If you don't know what that is, let me get you a quick crash course. Essentially, in the state of Texas, the age of consent is 17. This means adolescents under 17 cannot consent to intimacy. If they do, whoever is older in the pairing will be unjustly labeled a sex offender for the rest of their life. If it wasn't for a wonderful little law called the Romeo and Juliet law. But wait, there's a catch. The law only applies to heterosexual teenagers. What this means is if 2 16-year-old girls consent to loving intimacy and they are caught, then If one is literally 24 hours older than the other, she will be labeled a sex offender for the rest of her life. She will have trouble finding housing, trouble finding a job, and even putting her own future at risk with her ability to have children. This is not okay. This is literally outlawing adolescent queer love. And nobody seems to talk about it. Nobody in my activist circles seems to want to change this law because nobody thinks it's a priority. But I can tell you, this is the most important law for queer youth. And we need to start talking about it. We need to see action happen on this. Let me tell you about a place where Romeo and Juliet laws and other such things are a common topic, Hatch Youth. Hatch Youth is a place I love with my whole heart. It's a program we could all learn a lot from. It does the most work for queer youth in the city of Houston. Whether it's the rapid rehousing program, taking kids off the streets and putting them into apartments and checking up on them, teaching them life skills, or the drop-in center, a safe space open 3 times a week that allows queer kids to come and find a community, find a family. It's how I found mine. We could all learn a thing or two from Hatch Youth, and not just about how to treat kids, but how to treat each other and how to create a safe space. Safe spaces are so important for queer youth in our community, and they're lacking. We have meetings in bars. The cultural centers of our community are clubs and bars. This is not something that makes it easy to include youth. This is not something that queer youth can take part in. And it's not just us. It's as if we pretend there are no recovering alcoholics in our community, as if we pretend there's no one who struggles with alcohol in our community. And it needs to change. We need to change how our community sees safe spaces and how we elevate the voices of youth. And our board is doing a great job doing things like this just by having events here as opposed to a gay bar. And I applaud all of you for coming out today and listening to me. Thank you.